Thanks so much for that, Dylan. And now onto the risks that the credit rating agencies suffered back in the financial crisis of 2008. There are two main ones. First, the loss of clients to competitors. Essentially, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch were all scared to lose their clients to one another. So, this excessive pressure from competition along a booming housing market was what made them give out these inaccurate credit ratings that they weren't supposed to. Melissa Leo, who was an employee of Standard & Poor's at the time, when questioned about her company's practices, replied by saying they'll just go to Moody's, which shows us how reluctant these companies were of losing a client and how they were willing to do anything to keep them. The second risk is loss of reputation, which is another reason why these companies were issuing crazy credit ratings, because they wanted to build and maintain great relationships with their clients in a booming housing market. But as we all know, this backfired on them. Many government investigations started to appear and sanctions were put against these rating agencies alongside bad publicity, various lawsuits, and all of this turbulence resulted in these three agencies suffering significantly from their malpractices. But nowadays, seems like it's a different story. There's still an information disparity between lenders and borrowers in the market, and the three credit rating agencies come in to cover that gap. With that being said, we still think the big three are still predominant nowadays. To add on, it seems like what happened in the past stayed in the past. According to Refinitiv, for Moody's and Standard & Poor's, they saw their revenue, net income, and cash flows rise for the past 6 years. To add to that, they have been beating analysts' estimates in all of the recent quarters, with just one exception, that was Moody's for fourth quarter of 2020. Now, specifically about the pandemic, COVID-19, it did not have a direct negative effect on the rating agencies. According to Fitch, 2020 was a record year in rating issuances. And as we all know, the world is suffering significantly from the pandemic, and this is where the agencies came in handy with their sovereign ratings, which are very informative for investors. So although Fitch reports that 2020 was a great year for these agencies, according to Bloomberg, a stop on the issuance of credit ratings during the pandemic is not necessarily a bad thing. Why? Because according to this graph here from S&P Global, as you can see in the dark blue line, the agencies have been issuing massive amounts of downgrades, which essentially hurts the company or country that is receiving these downgrades, because investors will most likely remove their money, their investments, from those locations and put it elsewhere. To finalize, even though they had a terrible past during the financial crisis, nowadays the big three, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch, seem to be doing just fine. Thank you very much.